anxiety attack in art class, smoking weed, drinking and partying and stuff, and I didn't know what it was. Like, I didn't know what was happening. I just remember, like, I was like, couldn't breathe, and I thought, like, I'm like, God, get me out of jail. God, make sure that I drive from this place drunk home here safe without myself or others.
All right, everybody. So for the very first episode of the podcast for the Save, Heal, Grow podcast, which if you're not familiar with what it is, it's going to be all around based mental health, wellness, fitness, all good things positive for the body. If you're not familiar with what Save, Heal, Grow is, it is a nonprofit to combat against the stigmas behind mental health, get people some help, and get everybody on the track for confidence and growth. Today, we have Kenny Lambert as our very first guest. If you guys don't know who he is, well, one, you're missing out because he does a lot of great things for the community, but he's the owner of Just a Dad from Akron. Does a clothing brand here on the Boulevard for positive movements throughout Northeast Ohio, and I think they also have a global presence as well. He's a father of two beautiful children, one newborn that they just had. He's an active resident with helping others on their journey with sobriety. So if you're somebody who needs help with that, he does run support nights every Friday just above his shop over there in the First Glance area. That's what it is, right?
First Glance, yep.
He also has a documentary out of his journey, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that and kind of how he got to where he's at now. He just recently spoke at a TED Talk that came here to Akron, so that was pretty awesome. He's won the Humanitarian Award. He's won Community Choice Awards for Akron, and then he's also won an Emmy Award. So he's doing a lot. People are recognizing him for a lot of different things. And so, yeah, we'll get into it.
Yeah,
so just kind of give us a little introduction of you.
Yeah. So Kenny Lambert, owner and operator of Just a Dad from Akron, born and raised here in the Kenmore neighborhood. And I love the city and the community, and the purpose of everyone coming together to try to inspire change and make the community a better place, not only for the families but the children here in the city. Born and raised in Kenmore, both parents present in the household. Grew up as like a young skateboarder kid. Loved skating and running the streets and that, and also played baseball. So I love playing baseball, and from a very early age, very inspired to do sports and be active. Yeah. So, yeah.
For those who don't know, kind of coming full circle here, me and Kenny have actually known each other for quite a long time. We met through a mutual friend of both of ours that just, being around the same group, we came together. I actually used to do a lot of BMX, would do a lot of filming and rolling around with them through the streets of Akron. It was always a good time. We're going to dive into the journey of addiction.
Yeah.
Now, going all the way back, this is probably 15 years now at this point.
Right.
I remember back when you used to always come over to Bowman's house.
Yep.
Over there in Barberton. We'd all hang out, go skate for the day and stuff. And me and Tyler had noticed that, you were kind of slowly falling off as we were getting older, getting up in like middle school, high school days.
Yep.
And we didn't really figure out why. I had a few mutual friends that were hanging out with him at the time, Bronson and Bo and Bo. And that's kind of how I saw why Kenny had kind of fallen off from skating with us, and I'll let you lead from there.
Yeah, so I think it was around like the age like 16, 15, 16, kind of introduced to like smoking weed, drinking and partying and stuff. And like just like baseball and skateboarding was like, my first like true love and like mental obsession. It's like as I grew older, it's like those things became less important, you know, and I fell in love with like the party scene, and the way, you know, alcohol made me feel, took away the anxiety and the stress, and it was my solution, you know, to all my problems. So 15, 16, started partying. Didn't really pick up a lot until about, you know, 17, 18, and yeah, just going anywhere there was parties. And first consequence, right before I turned, I think I was 18. The first year I turned 18, within the first few months, I got my first DUI. You know, first real consequences or experience with the law.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like there was like concerning issues with family. You know, like you drink too much, you party too much. You know, and I'm just like, well, you know, like this is what I want to do. You know, I'm young. This is what everyone does at this age. You know, that's what I thought. And um, I never really looked at my alcoholism as like a problem, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and even with the consequences and stuff like that, I always had the mindset of like, okay, well, I just won't do that again, or do it this way, or drink here, or, you know, do this and that. And it just continued to be, you know, full circle of all the stuff I said I wouldn't do, I ended up doing. All the morals and, you know, the stuff that I was raised on eventually went out the window.
Do did you see any of the peers that you grew up around with the skateboarding and baseball? Did those people have a lot of effect in the choices and decisions that you made going into that?
Yeah, I think so, because it was like I felt like I always was different. I feel like I was always, no matter who I was surrounded with, I felt like I never fit in, or like I could see differences between me and like the peers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and some of them were like good things, and some of them were bad, you know. So I remember like as a kid growing up, like all the people that I hung out with a lot of older people, and like looked up to older people, and I remember like them going through like their addiction issues, like, and I'll be like, I'll never be like that. I'll never do that, you know. And long enough, you know, hanging around the same people, I ended up doing the same things.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Were you ever, was there anything in school that kind of led into like the anxiety and the, you know, the addiction that developed within the brain?
Yeah, well, I think like I don't know about like I know like in school, I remember like in ninth grade, like my first real like panic attack. I remember having like a really bad anxiety attack in art class, and I didn't know what it was. Like I didn't know what was happening. I just remember like I was like couldn't breathe, and I thought like I'm like the only thing my brain said was everyone feels this, you know,
Mm-hmm.
anxiety. They just display it differently. So like what I thought was everyone in the room was experiencing the same feelings that I had, like the anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
but everyone was just displaying it differently with like a smile, or, you know, like, and yeah, that was like my first, you know, I didn't know what anxiety was, you
Yeah.
know, I didn't go to the doctor or anything like that. And I was fearful to tell anybody because I thought people would think I was crazy if I'm like, I feel this way, or, you know, like these are my thoughts and this and that. Like, so I just real sheltered, quiet. Um,
Which is
yeah.
crazy from a young age. You know, a lot of people in our communities always state how important it is taking care of the kids in the school because essentially that's the future of our next generation.
Right.
So, you know, for you to have that feeling, that stigma behind like, you know, I'm having an anxiety, panic attack,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
makes me less of a person
Yeah.
if I were to try and talk about it.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that if you did talk about it, do you think that would have had an adverse effect on your path going forward, or?
Um, I'm not sure, you know, like I think maybe, you know, I don't really remember like if there was resources and stuff because like as a kid, I was always in my head a lot and like very naive. So I wasn't really even aware of like what was going around, like
Mm-hmm.
around me, like what was going on. It's just more or less like in my own brain, like constantly, you know. So it's
just
like,
just kind of take
yeah,
action?
so it's kind of just like, you know, like I was just like I don't really remember, you know, like if there were like resources or anything like that, because I think like I was more or less like so much in my head I couldn't even
Mm-hmm.
notice, you know, like what was going on, if, you know, someone would have.
Did you have a lot of fear of like that judgment of
Yeah,
others
yeah,
and?
yeah, for sure. And I think that's why like alcohol and like smoking weed like played such a big role like very early on, because it was like I felt one like I fit in, you know,
Yeah.
more, and it got me like out of myself, and it took away all those fears and anxiety, and like to where I just didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was like a huge thing, you know. I think that's why like I loved doing it so much. You know, I became addicted to it. Like It's like any real life problems or anything, the solution was alcohol and drugs.
I think that tends to be, the typical avenue that people take, especially once they hit high school. They start having like the college friends.
Mm-hmm.
They get to go to all the frat parties.
Right.
They learn about the parties within the communities and stuff, and it kind of just bees the direction that everybody takes to kind of not only just stick in with the peers that you're looking up to at that time, whether good or bad.
Yeah.
But also it's a way to kind of connect, build those relationships and stuff.
Yeah. And I think too, like growing up, I was always like, I never had like a identity as a kid, I was like, yeah, like the young skateboarder kid,
Mm-hmm.
but I had like no real identity. So it's like when I started drinking and partying, my identity was like this crazy partier, like this crazy alcoholic. And I took pride in like being an alcoholic because I
Yeah.
thought like I didn't even know like what Alcoholics Anonymous was or like recovery or anything like that. I was just like, oh, it's cool to be an alcoholic,
To
Because
you, it
like,
was just another normal
yeah,
day.
yeah. And it's like, oh, people want to be around me because I'm fun, and like I like to party and I like to drink and do this and do that until like it wasn't fun no more and people didn't want to be around me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I know, kind of looking behind the scenes through a lot of people that I went to school with. I still talk to her now through our insurance business that we
yeah.
have, Hallie.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she says that she still keeps in contact with
Yeah,
you.
for sure.
That's how I ended up finding out, a lot of other things, even with, because you had a previous t-shirt company prior to that.
Yep, yeah.
If I remember right, it was called Dirty Girls or something
Yep,
like
yeah,
that.
Dirty Girls, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so like that was like it's like the complete opposite life of like what I have today. So it's like and like I think like I went through that whole life in that motion to see like because like God knew that my purpose was greater than to do that. So it's like I had to live that experience and go through that to like mold like what the brand is today, because
Mm-hmm.
it was the complete opposite. What it was I made T-shirts with vulgar messages on them. We hosted parties and concerts and shows and stuff, and we just destructed everything. Venues. Yeah, man, it was just a not. It was not a positive thing at all. We're like taking from the community and we were those kids that are burning out doing, drunk driving and flipping Jeeps over and stuff like that, like,
That's crazy.
and it was the complete opposite, but I was like young, I was 20 years old, and that's what I thought. My perception at that time was like, this is what's cool. It was like the Viva La Bam era too, so it's
Mm.
like, those like you see that on TV and like Jackass and you're like, this is sweet,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
like I wanted to do stuff like that because that's what I thought was cool. Like growing up as a skateboarder kid, like that whole culture is like skate, destruct, have fun, like break the law, like
That
skateboarding is a crime, like like the whole like that whole stigma. So it's like, okay, like I'm gonna rebel,
yeah, yeah.
and that's what I did, and it took me down like that, like started a whole nother path of addiction, like harder drugs, more consequences, felonies, and burning bridges with family. Like that's when
Mm-hmm.
the real, it's like I'm not just like doing drugs and alcohol like to hurt myself. I'm like hurting family members and loved ones.
Yeah.
And like doing stuff and like saying stuff that I never, wanted to be or say. Like to do stuff like, and it was, yeah, man, I'm very blessed to have made it alive through that whole situation, because I lost many of friends over the past, the 10 years of addiction and alcoholism and running the streets of like, I don't know, I made it
I think
through.
I think it really showed though, like your purpose in life at that point, because I mean, yeah, it was for a different cause and stuff, but you had started a t-shirt company that was very successful. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
everybody and anybody that I knew, hung out with, friends with, any of the college parties we went
yeah, yeah,
to, they all knew about Dirty Girls,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
and if they didn't already have the whole clothing line of it, they
yeah,
were getting ready to take their next paycheck and
yeah,
and purchase some stuff.
yeah. And like, that's the thing too. So it's like to see how it's went full circle to like what today is now, it's like apparel with purpose, and it's like positive and like
Mm-hmm.
gives back and builds community and inspires people to like do better and like get sober or just be a positive person.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's crazy to see but it's like all those things I learned during that era, like building that brand.
Mm-hmm.
We just ended up like really like pissing it all away though. It's just like it was like kind of like our that like helped us like fund our parties, like
Yes.
for the party to go on.
Yeah, because you guys, some of your guys' parties and stuff were bigger than what we were having down there in the college campus area
Oh
in
yeah,
downtown
yeah,
Akron.
yeah.
Which, for any of those who don't know or not from the area, just about every year, still to this day, they have those parties, and it takes up like 3-4 blocks of the
Right.
downtown campus, all around Akron University, and all the frat houses get together. They either have concerts on their porches, which is the more positive way that they do
Yeah.
it now, or they just go, you know, all out, and the whole 3 blocks become a giant dumpster because it's so
Yeah.
trash from everybody just doing their thing.
Yeah.
Usually it's shut down. There's usually people that, end up hurt, arrested, things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I remember, when you guys were doing that, I had classes with Bronson, and
Yeah.
he'd be there one moment, next thing you
Yeah.
know, he'd be gone for a couple months, and it's
Yeah.
like, come back, it's like, where'd you go, man? He's like, we got in some trouble, ended up
Yeah.
in jail for like 90 days. I was like, man. And then we just listened to the stories that he would talk about, and it was like, holy crap. Like, you guys are really living it up.
Yeah, it was crazy, so.
Through all that, were you still religious at that point, or?
So like born and raised, I was like born and raised in church.
Okay.
Like Christian. When I was a kid, it was like the main rules were like if you live here, you go to school, and you go to church every Wednesday and Sunday. In that, like, home by the streetlights was like a thing until about 15. Like when I really started like skating and like running the streets, and it was kind of just like whatever. But yeah, like church was always mandatory as a kid. But like through addiction, it's like my prayers had changed from like a kid, like God, watch over my family, keep us healthy. As a kid, those are the prayers. And then my prayers were, God, get me out of this. God, get me out of jail. God, make sure that I drive from this place drunk home here safe without injuring myself or others. So it's like those prayers were like desperation prayers,
Yeah.
And leading up to like the end of the addiction, it's like there was no like conscious contact with God throughout the whole, it was just those quick prayers like, God, please get me home. God, get me out of jail. I promise I'll do everything right. I get out of jail and I'm off and running. Didn't pray, didn't seek God for the next time until like, I couldn't do it myself. Yeah.
Using him in a form of
like an emergency
saving
hotline. Yeah.
versus healing and opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. And then like leading up to the last, it was like the last time in active addiction that I prayed was like, God, if I have purpose, put me in jail. Because I never prayed to go to jail. I always prayed to get out.
Yeah.
And that I was just so desperate, and burnt every human resource of hotlines or family, friends, anyone. No one wanted me around. The only thing that they would offer was a ride to treatment. That's the only thing is like, only call us if you want to ride, because like I had burnt the bridges.
That's crazy.
You can't sleep on our couch. We're not giving you a ride anywhere. We're not loaning you any money unless you're ready to go get help. That's the only thing. And that's what I needed though, was that tough love.
Yeah. Are the people that helped you through your journey when you were, reaching the end point of your addiction, are those people still actively in your life now, or?
Yeah. So like at the end, it was really just myself. I was like by myself, homeless, nowhere to stay. Couch surfing. And the couch surfing would last like a day or two, and then people would be like, "Bro, what are you doing? You can't stay here because you're,
not paying them rent and stuff.
No, I just like wasn't really, like I was bringing stuff into their house that,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and like doing things, and like it wasn't like a good thing. Yeah, so I ended up like, that's when I prayed, like, God, if I have purpose, put me in jail. If not, give me the courage to commit suicide. And that was when my daughter was 10 months old.
Okay.
So I hadn't seen my daughter for a month, a little over, and I was really, man, like I really had that moment of clarity of like, it's not about me anymore. I have this responsibility of this little girl, and if I die right now, and my daughter grows up and says, "Who was my dad?"
Mm-hmm.
Her dad was not a good person.
Yeah.
You know.
That's an eye opener.
Yeah, so it's like I knew that's what really like held me on, like that last thread of like, because it's like I didn't care about myself. I had no like love for myself, but it's like the fact that that little girl would have grew up without a dad, or like who was her dad. That's what really, man. That's what made me hold on. You
Did you
know?
ever see did you ever watch like crime shows or anything like that, or movies where people go through that kind of thing? And then did that ever spark anything in your mind, or were you never really a person that did stuff like that?
No, so like it's not that I didn't want to live. I just didn't want to, or it's not that I just didn't want to. The pain was so great. It's just like the only option that my brain could fathom was suicide
Yeah.
to like end the pain. Because I thought I was so far down, and I had like caused so much destruction.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no way that I can possibly fix any of this stuff. It's like I thought I'd like
Was that pain associated just because you didn't know like what the next step to take was to get away and get out of this and get out of your head?
Yeah, well, I think the pain was like a lot of different things. It's like, um, one, like the pain that I had caused to anybody that ever loved or cared about me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also, like, like I never wanted myself, I wasn't raised to do a lot of the things that I did. And I broke a lot of like the morals and like, went against the grain of like what I knew was right and what was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like that pain of like care and the guilt, of like I can't believe I did this to my family, and I told them I'd never do this again, or I would sell them dreams and like go to jail for 6 months and get out, and I'm like, I promise I'm going to stay sober, and I'm showing up at their house blacked out that same night,
Not keeping the promises to
yeah,
yourself.
like trying to sell them dreams, like
Yeah.
it's because I truly fully wanted to do it and like meant it, but it's like
The
the drugs and
discipline for
alcohol
yourself.
was just
Yeah.
was the obsession was just greater.
That's the amazing thing about children is, it doesn't matter where you're standing at in life, they're always going to make you acknowledge, what do I need to do to give them the best.
Yeah.
And I know for a lot of people who grow up in like really tough childhoods and stuff,
Right.
that ends up being more than ever. I know, like through our experience with our four kids,
Yeah.
that's how me and my wife think is like, we both went through a lot of, alcoholic, abusive families,
Right.
a lot of lack of support, things like that. And, at growing up, we didn't want our kids to be without anything. We didn't
Right.
want them to be abused in any kind of way. And, it really, really shines the light on like what it could be if we just make this decision.
For sure.
That's amazing. Now you have a second kid, and
Yeah.
that was just born recently.
Yeah.
How's that transition from where you were when you had Amelia and
Yeah.
where you have Harvey now?
Yeah. So like when Amelia was born, I was high as a kite, you know. And everyone that was like calling and tell me congratulations, it wasn't from my perception of the person I was at that time was I was there, I was present when she was born. Everyone called and said congrats, but in that moment, it was not about her. I was so selfish in my addiction. It's like you can come see this little beautiful gift that God just blessed us with
Mm-hmm.
if you bring me drugs and alcohol. That's the only way. If not, then you're gonna have to wait. So like to be
You were
like,
seeking that craving.
yeah, man, it's just like like it was. I was just so selfish and so down bad, and then like the complete opposite though. Like when Harvey was born, it's like I was sober, so it's like I'm able to be there. I'm able to help Christy through anything that she needs, and be there when he's born. And he was in the NICU for 13 days,
Oh
so it's
wow,
like to be like, and we were in Cleveland, so it's like that's where we had the baby. Like Harvey was born in Cleveland.
that's far from family.
Yeah. So it's like, but we wanted him. The original plan was there because it's like we wanted to be like removed from like all the stuff in Akron as far as like people coming to like we wanted like privacy,
Mm-hmm.
so like there, so it's like every day I'm like he's born, I'm driving back to Akron, I'm running the store, closing the store, driving up to Cleveland, 14 days back and forth, and then she was in the hospital also 14 days prior before he came
That's a
because her water
dedicated
broke.
schedule.
So it's like constant. But I'm sober and I'm able to do these things. Um, it's not that I had to; it's that I get to.
Yes.
That I get to be present. I get to see my son born. I get to pray with Christy over, like while he's in the NICU, because it's scary. Because like that was the scariest thing, I think, was like, even though he was like very healthy, he came premature, but it's like seeing other babies in there and like just hearing those alarms go off. It's like, like,
it's crazy.
yeah, you're like, what is that? Like, what, like, but all it is at the end of the day, it's like, it could be the littlest thing,
That's how our firstborn Kinsley was, who's now our oldest. She was born premature. She was literally weight and lengthwise the size of a baby doll. Preemie clothes didn't even fit her. It was crazy.
It is. It's scary,
And then we had actually almost lost Mom because they thought everything was going to go wrong with her.
Yeah.
And it actually ended up going wrong with Mom. She had a couple different things that happen within a pregnancy that isn't normal to happen.
Right.
And she had them all happen at once. And then they tried to give her different medicines and stuff to combat that.
Yeah.
One went against the other. And so it actually made her worse.
Yeah.
And so she had, blood pressure levels that were beyond the person of someone having a stroke and stuff. She wasn't clotting the way that she was supposed to. We had to pull literally almost basketball-sized blood clots out of her and stuff. We had to talk about like the whole death plan and everything else if she didn't make it through this. By the grace of God, thank God that the blood transfusion, ended up pulling her through, and now she's still here with us. But now we just make jokes that she has AIDS.
Yeah.
The reason for that is they make you sign off on a waiver that if anything were to happen, the blood's contaminated, things like that, then they're not responsible for it.
So. Right. But yeah, I feel like that's a scary thing. Like I think just like childbirth, even if the baby's like completely healthy, like the 9 months that he's growing in there, like it's still scary, like.
Yeah, even before they're born, you go through so much with the mother of they go through so much.
So like that's the thing for me though, is like the huge difference was like I was able to be sober and present and like a help versus like like liability asset. So it's like in active addiction, when Amelia's mom was pregnant with Amelia the whole time, I don't remember any of that. I wasn't even I was probably like popping in like, oh hey, how you doing? All right, sweet, I'm out. This is more like, I'm able like, hey, can you do this? Yes. And they have like trust and faith that it's actually going to be able to be done, and so that was like a huge thing,
Do you feel like that, like later in life, that's going to have some kind of effect between like the relationship with Harvey versus the relationship with Amelia?
No, I don't believe so, because like like when it's like I always wanted to be like, like I was raised, my dad was amazing, my dad's always been present, been a provider, loves Jesus, so it's always been instilled as a kid, like like what a great father looks like. So it's like I think the guilt and shame of like when Amelia was born, a lot of that was I'm not able to be the dad I know God created me to be because of drugs and alcohol and my decisions,
Yeah.
So like when I got sober, it was like I could fulfill that purpose, It's like the drugs and alcohol is no longer stopping me from being that dad my daughter deserves. So like at 10 months old, she don't ever remember like me being drunk or high, So and then when I got sober, it's like the tables turned and I had Amelia, full time for like that first year. So it's like that was like really like the foundation of like being a dad. It was like going to all the Rubber Ducks games, going to all the carnivals, fireworks, like me and her spent like that whole first year together, like day and night, So
that's amazing, because
it like really built that bond. And I truly believe that like God gave me a girl first, because it's like that really kept me like on my P's and Q's of like being a protector, versus like having like a little homie, like, hey, yeah, go pee on the building, versus like, okay, like this is serious, like this is a little girl. I got to protect her with my life, Yeah, not that I wouldn't with the boy, but it's just perspective, changes my whole thought on like women, how to, respect women more.
Women are,
Yeah,
not
man.
obviously not all of them, but women are definitely a lot more emotional than we are as males, and you know, being able to be blessed with a girl as a child just
Yeah, yeah,
puts into perspective of like, man, there's stuff about me that I need to reevaluate, rethink, so
yeah,
that
yeah,
way, I can give her the most love and affection that I can,
for
and
sure. Yeah,
give her the most.
yeah, and it taught me a lot too. Like, yeah. So I think like, and like with Harvey, it's like it's cool. Like now I kind of have like a little like study guide on like like all right, so it's like I know how things went, and I
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot with the first kid. So it's like now I can just apply that and like still learn more, and yeah,
I think that's valuable, that God placed you in your journey at the right time, to where your daughter doesn't have to remember all the bad stuff. She
yeah, for
she gets the
sure,
opportunity to remember all the good stuff about her dad.
most definitely, yeah, yeah.
Now, do you ever feel or worry about that, Amelia or Harvey's going to grow up and end up down that path?
Yeah, it's like I know like when I was like first uh like the first year and two in sobriety, and like sometimes I still have like that fleeting thought.
Mm-hmm.
Um but what I've learned is like to have the mindset of like, like if I go down that rabbit hole and let my brain, then all it does is bring anxiety and fear,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But if I really just pray and trust that God's plan and purpose for like myself or my kids is greater than what I could imagine, and only to like really just live in the moment of like one day at a time. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, who knows? Like I could freak myself out and like overthink that a million times, but it's like as long as I do my best that I can do today and raise them the way that I feel God wants me to raise them, then farther down the road, like if that happens, or when that if that ever occurs or whatever, then it's like that'll be another trial and tribulation. But it's like there's no reason for me, and that's how I try to look at life overall. It's like if I freak myself out or like have a panic attack or overthink about a situation that could happen so far, even next week,
Mm-hmm.
um, next week might not ever come.
Yeah.
So it's like why I feel like I'll just try not to like exert my energy um, and space on stuff that I can't control, and that I don't know if it. I've seen this thing that said 90% of the stuff that we overthink and worry about and like lose sleep over never happens
Yep.
anyway.
Yep.
So it's like, I just try to keep that mindset and remember, like, if I'm thinking about tomorrow right now, then I like might miss the opportunity that I've been praying for today,
I
that
love
could
that.
come. So
I
it's
love
like,
that.
and then if I miss it because I'm thinking about tomorrow and like the opportunity comes right in front of me, and I'm like, oh, I missed it because didn't even ever see it coming.
I love that. I want to retouch on what you said at the beginning of that, is, having a purpose, having a why. Um, with Save Heal Grow, we do a lot of that with our groups, is trying to get people to understand that you don't have to be perfect.
Right,
You
right.
don't always have to have the perfect day, but as long as every week you're making that progress forward little by little,
Yeah,
then it's going to end up in a good situation. And by doing that, you have to really understand the why, the purpose of why
yeah,
you're wanting, for your case, sobriety. Why does everybody want to get sober from, the substance abuse and things like that? Why do people want to get away from the violence? With our nonprofit, why do people want to mentally get in a better state of mind, and be able to not have those anxieties
for
and be
sure.
able to function out in public? Or worst case, they're not having to be in and out of jail because they grew up with a bad past, and now they're doing that, murdering people, harming
Yeah, yeah,
people, things like that. So it's super important, and I love that you touched on that, to have that purpose in life.
yeah,
Because if you don't have a purpose, I feel that you're kind of just living in, the wheels of the day to day. There's no
yeah.
rhyme or reason why you're actually living, other than you didn't have the choice to be born, and you just kind of happen to be born through your parents.
Right.
Um, and it's so important to have that purpose,
Yeah,
because it gives us something to work towards, whether
yeah,
short term, long term, small, big. It just provides, you know within our own written book,
Yeah.
the next chapter to turn to.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, 27 years of life. It's like, I never knew like what my purpose was, until like, that's the thing is I just had to,
They definitely don't teach that in public
yeah,
school.
man, you just gotta, search and find your true self,
It's all about how do we be the most optimized robot, basically.
Right.
We're not told these values and reasons on how to get there as a human. It's just kind of like, well, you graduated, kick you out, figure it out. We taught you
sure.
how to do the basics. You learn how to do the adulting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. And then, again, touching on, the statistic of 90%, I remember seeing that in a podcast I watched one time, and I saw the exact same thing. And in that same podcast with the statistic, they also talked about the other thing you brought up with, don't worry about the things that you can't control, worry about the stuff you can.
Yeah.
And that's so, so important, especially if you're someone who like really struggles with anxiety and being overwhelmed really easily and stuff. That is so crucial, to understand how to do that, because right. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, most of the things that we build up this, what if story that never even happened yet, we get so in our heads about, oh my god, oh my god, yeah. Oh my god, what if this, and then, if you can get yourself to that point of being fearless but still have that fear inside you, because we're all going to fear the things we're doing, but we know that there's a better consequence on the other side of it, and so it makes us a little bit more fearless.
Yeah, I think that's how I spent 75%, probably 80% of my life doing that. Like, what if this happens? And I just like, so many nights I couldn't sleep because I'm just like, what if this or this or this, or if it plays out this way? And it's like, and it never played out any of those ways, unless I took control and like made it happen that way, that I, what if this or that? So.
And it's crazy too, because like it doesn't matter like how low you are on the ground or how tall you stand, like that statistic is always going to be there, and it's always going to come out in a positive way.
Right, for sure.
Like with your addiction, like you were always thinking like, am I going to get arrested? Am I going to die?
Yeah,
things like that. And here you are still today, living, doing, serving a greater purpose, and helping people in their own journey.
For sure.
And so, that statistic holds very true to that. So.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So what's next for Just a Dad from Akron? I know we've had quite a few successful years.
Yeah.
We've won a bunch of awards. We've done some stuff that some pretty big people always wish to be a part of, is being on stage, getting to speak to, a huge audience. What's next?
Yeah, so like we have some, collabs and stuff coming up for 2025. Really just continue to grow the business, build community relationships and stuff like that. A few different like speaking opportunities on the books for 2025.
Any locally or?
Not locally. So, or there is one locally that will be in August. That is for a walk in their shoes with like Compass North Church.
Oh, okay.
So that will be in 2025. They'll be having the information out soon, and I'll post it as well. The Jadpa House is getting ready to. We're putting all the P's and Q's together to launch that.
That'll be huge for the city.
So I think that'll be a huge asset to the community. For anyone that's mental health, addiction, recovery, walk in faith. Just a resource center for people to come together and grow, and build relationships and resources. So, yeah, other than that, just the goal is to, just I'd say my main goal is to, spend more time with family, but also continue to grow the business and keep God first.
Mm-hmm.
My prayer for 2025 is to, for God to show me the doors that He's opening and close the ones that aren't meant, so, and to have that discernment,
Amen to that.
so it's just, and just to keep trudging along, man, and just, you know.
We got any new upcoming releases coming out again soon, or
So right
collabs?
now, yes, like right now it's January. We just had the collaboration with Caleb Ehrenholt, the Graves to Gardens collaboration piece. So I'm not dropping anything new until March. So the goal right now is to clear the store out from February to March, and then we have the 4-year anniversary of the storefront in
That's
March.
amazing.
So the goal is to like fill it. I'm working on all new designs for March.
Okay.
To have the whole store filled with all new stuff going into spring. Huge celebration for the 4-year anniversary. Every year it's been an amazing turnout. Support and everyone that shows up is amazing. And then trickle into springtime and leading up to everything that's on the books for that. Yeah.
That'll be exciting. Get back into all the warm apparel.
Yeah,
and
the shorts and yeah.
Get to enjoy being out about
Yeah.
more. Right. If you're not sure, we're from Ohio, and right now it's really bitter cold. It's been snowing. We're supposed to get like a big snowstorm.
Yeah.
I've been seeing nothing but like all those back in 78,
Yeah.
77 times where they got like 6 feet of snow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
it's
sure. Yeah. So
crazy.
it's, just, and like, yeah, it's like I love winter because it's beautiful, but it's like I'm more just like summer nights. That's my favorite thing is the smell, summer nights, warm t-shirt.
My wife always
Yeah.
says she loves the fall because you get the best of everything.
Yeah.
Plus
too.
all the colors.
Yeah. Light hoodie.
Yes.
Not like layers and bundles and
Yep.
yeah.
Are you getting the opportunity to work again with Goodyear Height or Goodyear? Why am I drawing a blank? We'll just say Goodyear. Goodyear and Stan Hewitt and all of them again.
Yeah. So Stan Hewitt, I'm circling back where we got 2 things on the books on board for 2025. So
That's amazing.
those would be some collaborations that to be on the lookout for, and yeah. So really, whatever God puts in my path,
Now, I want to know because I know you're trying to make a global presence with what you're doing.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the talks, works with expanding to another store in a different area?
No. This will always be the one store, just organic, one space. Just like one of those. That's the spot. I think that's what keeps it so special. And keeps it so organic and like sentimental.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's that one spot you can come in and you really you can feel and experience the growth of it.
Have you noticed like a gradual impact within the Kenmore community from like what you were doing in addiction versus now what you're doing? Because I know the community's been through all kinds of different phases over those years.
Yeah, I think so. Like impact wise, it's like a lot more people that are just like walking the street or in the area are very grateful, for like the sense of community being built, for the events and stuff like that. Even like the meetings, like the people that walk by and it's just like, hey, they have a safe place to pop in and be like, hey, I'm struggling with this, or just get some advice or just to come in and just share what they're going through, and it helps me, I'd say a lot of the time it's like I take from every conversation something that helps benefits me.
I was really surprised that night that we came and saw that, what was it, a mayor? She's mayor or council?
For
Akron?
Tina?
I think that was her name.
Council lady?
Yeah. I was surprised to see that someone that works within our judicial system went through a period in life like that too, because I think that adds a lot of value to the community.
Oh, it was the judge. Yeah, Judge Susan Baker Ross. Yeah, she did a lead. That meeting? Yeah. So yeah, and that's the cool thing, it's like at the end of the day, it's like addiction doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care if you're rich, poor, famous, not, like homeless, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
We're all human at the end of the day, and I think that's the common denominator is like, Yeah, we all struggle,
I thought that was so amazing because I feel like that adds a lot of value to the city that she's representing.
For sure.
I just had a conversation with a lady that actually lives at the other side of town from me that reached out to be a part of our organization.
Yeah.
Come to find out that she did a lot of like certified peer recovery stuff in Arizona, where she's originally from. And when she came to Ohio, the laws and regulations around peer support people, because she had a past with drug addiction and stuff, that they wouldn't allow her to be a part of that. And so she was coming to our organization because of what we're doing, and thought that she could be very useful within everything we're trying to do, her experiences, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was crazy because I was like, those people are the best people for, sobriety, mental health, things like that, because, they've gone through the journey and they've gotten themselves out of it. And so they have the best experience that you could ever have. I mean, there's no degree that's going to ever, have the experience and the stories and the
Yeah, for
relatability
sure.
To those people. And essentially, that's what they need.
Yeah.
Is, to have someone who's relatable with them, that's not just going to shame them and put them down for the journey that they chose at that point in life.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's plenty of people that, have been bad alcoholics, criminals, addiction, and, now they're multi-million, multi-billion-dollar people,
Right.
and doing some great stuff. So, I mean, for all those who wonder and who are afraid to reach out, whether you're doing stuff with Kenny and his organization, to get sober, or you're doing stuff with our organization to combat your mental health, there's no reason to be afraid. I always say we all have a past in some sort.
Yeah, for sure. Most definitely.
Most people know me as the shy person. Actually, when I was in school, because I stayed quiet, everybody always thought I was going to come in and shoot up the school because I just never talked. But kind of the same way, I've never felt like I felt in. I always was dealing with my family, hungover, if not still in the party phase.
Yeah.
I'd wake up 6 o'clock to get ready for school, and my parents have all these people from the bar still in the party. Everybody's still blaring music, getting down. And so, getting to school was always like a defeat for me. And so by the time I got there, it was like, ugh, I don't want to do this.
Right.
And so, yeah. So how about the Jada House? You get any plans in the upcoming years to maybe expand out on those, offer more locations?
Yeah. So that's definitely in the works and stuff like that. So that's more like Christy's wheelhouse. She's the whole runs the whole Jatpa house. I'm just the person on the side that says, this is the idea, this is what we're doing, and any insider envision, and
you say
I
that
pass it along.
You say that in almost every event that you participate in, host, pretty much everything across the internet, that she's kind of the one that keeps everything rolling. You don't feel like you take as much part in it?
No, like for like the store stuff, yeah, but then like it's like the store and then the Jatpa house is two different things, So like that whole thing over there, she's like the race, she put that all together, like the 7K and anything that's like hosted with that, and then it's like I support her in that, and then anything that's hosted here that I run and put together, she supports me in this, and it's just like kind of we just do like our own thing, and then at the end of the day, like we just say, hey, this is what I did today, and catch up and like, okay, sweet,
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it works so much easier that way instead of like, me trying to control or tell her like, oh, don't do that, or like her trying to tell me here, it's like kind of we just do our own thing.
Did you ever, like through your journey and even coming out of it, did you ever envision that you were going to end up with a partner that connected so well and that you were going to be able to share these opportunities with?
Nah, because it's like all the relationships leading up to like my whole life, it's like they're all like toxic relationships. It weren't, they weren't what God wasn't in the center of those, So this is the first relationship with God in the center, so it makes it way better, yeah.
So wrapping things up, especially since
let me see if mine.
Mike died or they decided to quit working.
Oh yeah, mine's still on.
Is it?
Yeah.
Maybe I have a defect.
Yours is back on.
Maybe I have a defected mic with a defected mic host. But So what's next for Kenny?
Yeah, man, same. Just really just
Whether
one day at
personal,
a time.
business,
Yeah,
anything.
take more time for myself. You know, um, I'm like addicted to working. It's like I'm always like addicted to like creating and doing more, and like it's fun. It's fun to create and design and to print and make stuff come to life and like
Do
do
you
stuff that
do
I
do
never thought was
you make all
possible.
your designs by yourself, or?
Yeah, it's like I'd say it just depends. Like different parts of the year, it fluctuates. Like right now, I'd say in here is 75% of my stuff, 25% collaboration.
Okay.
You know, so it just depends. If I collaborate with another brand or artist. But
But as
yeah.
far as like the focal design,
Oh yeah,
like you're the one that's
if it's
on the
just
computer
just a
creating
Dad from
all of it.
Akron, yeah. If it's a JATPA, like just a Dad from Akron design, yeah, it's yeah coming from my brain and my hand, So just whipping it up. But yeah, really for myself, take more time for myself, um, and yeah, just relax.
What is relaxing for Kenny?
Uh, Rubber Ducks baseball game,
Baseball games.
baseball, or like even just honestly watching TV, like just disconnecting and not doing anything physical that has to do with work.
Taking that time away from social media, all
Yep, yep,
the go go go.
yeah, yeah.
What
So
do you ever reflect, or like how does that make you feel that you've been through so much, and now you've blessed yourself with the opportunities to have that privilege to be able to take time and just kind of relax, breathe, think about your next move, and not have to constantly like be fighting something
yeah,
while in the
yeah,
process.
yeah. I think like that's the thing is like I suck at taking time for myself. I'm always trying like with a lot of people reaching out, I'm always like either helping someone or working here, or so like that's my goal for like 2025 is to like with the Jadpa House opening, that'll be like a huge weight lifted for like resources and stuff because it'll be like people will be able to go there and I'll be able to relax my brain more and disconnect. Really, that's the hardest thing for me to do is disconnect.
Yeah.
So I really want to like be able to disconnect. Stay off my phone and just enjoy the present time with like family and loved ones and stuff like that.
I think that's always going to be like a battle with an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah,
Is you're always wanting to be productive in some way.
for sure.
I know, like, experience why I know I'm the same way. My wife, we've had conversations in the past of like, are you ever going to slow down? Are you going to ever stop creating a new business?
Right, right,
Is there ever going to be a time where it's just us and enjoying life?
right.
And they don't understand that it may look like everything's chaotic, but we do truly enjoy what
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
doing.
yeah, yeah.
It's not. They always say, find something you love or you're passionate about, and you'll never work a day
Yeah,
in
for
your
sure.
life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Most definitely.
I think that's a lot of people who take that endeavor as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I enjoy it, but it's like to disconnect. It's always a lot going on and a million directions. It's like I have. Yeah, there's always just a million things going
You
on.
can you can actually
Yeah, yeah,
take that mental breath
yeah,
without someone being like, "Hey, Kenny."
yeah.
Are you gonna with the Jada House? Are you gonna have employees there,
So to
other people
be
running it, or?
that's a Christy thing, So she's running that. I know she's looking to get 2 part-time peer support people and stuff like that. So
Funny thing is, I'm actually right. I've already completed the education for that. I'm just waiting to hear back from the city of Act. Or no, I'm doing it online because of my health reasons.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
hard
yeah,
for me to
yeah.
get transportation. Um, I think they have an online. It's a 2 week process course for Stark County.
Okay.
I'm just waiting to hear back from them. Once I get through that, I'll be an official certified peer recovery support individual.
Nice. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
just feel like it'll add value to everything that we're trying to do here in this community.
For sure.
I know we are looking in the future to get a facility, whether it's within your community. I have a lot of people that are like, hey, we have buildings here in Kenmore and stuff,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
I feel like Barberton or Norton or something would be better because Kenmore is kind of your roots, and I know what's his face, Terrence or whatever down at ethic race.
Yeah.
Was like we don't have enough of those kind of facilities.
Yeah, I don't think there could ever be too many of them. It's like churches. You see 10 churches. There's probably 7, 8 churches right here on the boulevard, and it's like there can never be enough help.
Going back to the beginning of this podcast, it kind of goes into that realm. Like, you've done so much at building what you have here. I don't want to be someone that comes in.
Yeah, man. That's if you're led to be somewhere or be a part of or do your own thing in whatever area, that's where you're led to be, man.
We've had Seth reach out to us and stuff.
Great
people. Man, they do. So for those who aren't from this area, Kenmore used to be like wreak havoc of all kinds of addiction, all kinds of crime. If you were walking down the wrong street, you would just get shot just because you were in the wrong place, wrong time. Or maybe you get in the midst of a drug deal gone bad and you just happen to be that person walking by. I know when we were always skating and riding bikes, filming here, we'd always have people come up because we would do it at night too, and always have people try to rob us and stuff, and it was crazy.
It's definitely changed a lot since.
So I mean, what they're doing for the community is amazing. I mean, Kenmore has taken a complete 360 from what it was just 10, 15 years ago. I remember. Are you familiar with Charles and Anthony, the Bloods?
Yeah.
I remember we'd be in this area and Charles would have gotten robbed or in a fight or something, and so we'd come out to film, and then he'd be running around with a machete as we're riding up and down the boulevard, just in case someone tried to rob us or something again. And it was like crazy. I don't think they have to walk down a road and have a lethal weapon on you that can either kill someone or shoot up bodies like that. You would never think that. Hopefully me saying that doesn't get this banned either. We'll have to edit that out. But I mean they've done so much for this community, and Kenny's gotten close with my mom too, and so I get to hear about all the things that positive are going on in this area, and it's amazing. I love it. And honestly, I think kind of looking, because we were out of Barberton for a while and coming back into Barberton, I kind of realized that I think a lot of Kenmore has actually kind of transitioned over into Barberton, and now the other side of Barberton is kind of turned into that.
For sure.
I know they've had a lot of negative stuff happen to the community just because of buildings not being ran right with the mayor and stuff, and foreclosing and stuff, and so a lot of people are moving into those things. So hopefully we can create like a good radius around us to kind of shift that word. They can all go to Compton or something. Go
inspire everyone to come together and make it a better place.
Yes, especially with as divided as our world is right now. It's it's needed more than ever to have all these outlets.
Right.
Up until we started doing stuff, I was amazed at like how many resources we have but don't have.
Right.
Like the resources are there, but they're not marketed enough for people to know about them, and they usually have to meet some qualification in order to receive the treatment that they need. They can't just do like what you're doing and just be like, hey, it's free, just come get help.
Right.
Like that's the important part, is taking that first step.
For sure.
So okay, we're gonna wrap things up here. We're super thankful that we got to take Kenny and what he's doing, and he gets to be the very first episode on the savehealgrow podcast. So stay tuned for that, because this will be coming out in a couple weeks, and then we have a bunch of exciting stuff coming up, not only just with ours, but with what Kenny's doing as well. I know I keep bugging him all the time about getting together on stuff. It's just the topics kind of come together. The goal is to make our communities a better place, and hopefully we can encourage people to do that for other people, and eventually our whole globe across can can take that impact and spread it. They don't know already. Where can they find your physical location? So
storefront is located 937 Kenmore Boulevard. Social media, just Dad From Akron, Instagram, Facebook, and website justadadfromakron.com.
So real simple, real easy to remember. He's across majority of the social media platforms, and if you haven't supported him already, hop on the website. If you're from out of town, if you're locally, drop down. He's always got something going on, or he's always
Yeah.
here for a conversation. So um, take advantage of that and support him in what he's doing. And I think I remember hearing you say that a lot of like the profits that you get off the t-shirts all go in towards the
Yeah, so
community.
it's like apparel with purpose, you know. So I use a percentage of sales to host a community event. Yeah.
So there you have it. So go support him. Go follow him on social media. Go see what he's gotten on and upcoming with his website. And that is a wrap for that.
Yeah, appreciate it,
So
man. Thank you.
it was nice having you,
Yeah,
man.
for sure.